Now, on to our program. When Vanity Fair magazine published a profile about our speaker tonight, they titled it, "Why the World Loves Mellody Hobson." Okay, world, but just know Chicago loved her first. The word most often used to describe Mellody is unique. Media mogul Jeffrey Katzenberg summed it up best when he said she has a grace and a graciousness about her that is singular. But singular hardly captures Mellody, who seamlessly moves through worlds of finance, arts, philanthropy, sports, and more. Working alongside founder John Rogers, Mellody is co-CEO of 40-year-old Ariel Investments, a global investment firm that manages over $15 billion in assets. She's also a board member of JP Morgan, and until recently, Mellody was chair of the Starbucks board and remains the company's lead independent director, and was also former chair of DreamWorks Entertainment. And Mellody also co-founded the Black Corporate Directors Conference to connect Fortune 500 board members. But there's more. She is part owner of the Denver Broncos. She is co-chair of the Lucas Museum of Narrative Arts, which is set to open in Los Angeles in 2026, and chairman of Chicago's After School Matters. She is also a tireless advocate for financial literacy. For 20 years, Mellody appeared on morning television to help us understand money. This is a topic that is extremely personal to Mellody. The sixth child, born to a single mom who worked hard but struggled to make ends meet, Mellody learned about scarcity and paying bills before she was 10. Much younger than her 5 other siblings, she was taught to be independent, but also to coexist and to advocate for others. After excelling at St. Ignatius College Prep, Mellody chose Princeton after being double-teamed by recruiters John Rogers and basketball great Bill Bradley, and years later, Senator Bradley walked her down the aisle when Mellody married film director and producer George Lucas. Starting as an intern 33 years ago, she was named president when she was 31 and co-CEO 5 years ago, and under her leadership, the company has continued to expand with new offices and new strategies. In 2021, Mellody co-founded Ariel Alternatives, LLC. The firm's inaugural private equity fund, Project Black, raised almost $1.5 billion with the aim of scaling minority-owned businesses to narrow the wealth gap through supply chain diversity. Mellody has said she was driven to enter finance to understand money, and her mission is to help others understand it too. That led to her decision during the pandemic to speak to 8 to 12-year-olds about personal finance with the hope that it would inspire their parents and caregivers too. Priceless Facts About Money was published this fall and spent 5 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. The book is entertaining and a great gift for any 8-year-old who wants to learn about compound interest. Tonight, Mellody will discuss a wide range of topics. As the former chair of the Economic Club, she has interviewed some of the biggest names in our generation, including former President Barack Obama, Satya Nadella, and U2's Bono. But tonight, she is on the hot seat with her friend Queen Latifah, who will be asking the questions. Now, on to Queen Latifah, a Grammy, Emmy, and Golden Globe winning and Academy Award nominated artist. Queen Latifah is an actor, producer, entrepreneur, and Kennedy Center honoree who currently stars and executive produces in the hit CBS show, The Equalizer, now in its 5th season. We are thrilled to have you with us tonight. Welcome to the Economic Club of Chicago, Queen Latifah and Mellody Hobson.
Hi, everyone. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Please give it up one more time for the amazing Mellody Hobson. So impressive.
I used to be a greeter here.
Okay.
That's why I'm crying. I used to be a
talk about
greeter. I was a greeter. The first year I was a member of the club, I stood at the escalator and I said hi to everyone, just like Walmart.
Just like Walmart.
And the
And
true
look
story,
at you now.
no one wanted the greeter job. And Grace Berry told me I should be a greeter. And I said, you are exactly right. And she said, why are you so excited about it and no one wants to be a greeter? And I said, because I can meet everyone.
So how does it feel? I mean, I want to get into this, but how does it feel? What does it feel like to look back at that moment?
I just feel grateful, gratitude, and tremendous, overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by the idea. I remember being a greeter. I literally, I was very young. John was really important, and I used to run around.
Still important, John.
I used to.
Don't worry. Still important.
I used to run around behind him, sort of following him around. So there's just so much love and gratitude. And I love Chicago so much, and I love this room.
I think Chicago loves you. So before we get started, maybe you want to share a little bit about how we met?
Yeah.
Tell the people them.
You tell them. They want to hear from you too. This is one of the best people you will ever meet. George loves her as much as I do, and people are always shocked that we're so close, but we're like family. And
We are definitely like family. But in that respect, so we met, well, thank you to Lee Daniels, I was doing a show with Lee, and he was saying, do you know Mellody Hobson? You gotta meet her. You just need to know her. I said, okay. Invited us to their home in Italy to stay for some time, and it literally was like we clicked, our families clicked, and we have not looked back since. And you just have embraced us and loved on us.
they move in with us every summer.
Move in every summer. We eat their food. I sneak in the kitchen in the middle of the night. So you know we're family, because I know my way around the kitchen. I ask for things that are off the menu. How is it that you manage to be, I'm going to fiddle with these glasses, and I apologize in advance, but otherwise I can't see. How is it that you manage to do so much for so many? We heard this impressive introduction. You have the credit, the credentials, the hard work, and yet you manage to make time to be such a wonderful friend. I've seen you do it. I can't explain how you do it, but it seems very important for you to do that. What is it that speaks to you?
Well, I'll start off with the fact that I think that people are a form of fuel for me. Mm-hmm. They give me energy and they give me ideas. I learn a lot from everyone, everywhere. It's not about being famous. It's not about being a CEO or in the C-suite. There are people in every corner of the world that have been great teachers to me and great mentors to me. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to engage. And I need it. I need the friendships. I always feel like I'm not as good a friend as I would like to be, because there's so many people I love and want to be with.
Right.
And so sometimes I can't do everything that I want to do, but I would say that I do value my relationships, and I've learned to value them more over time. They're probably the most important things to me. Nothing else really matters.
Wow, that's important. I'm touched. I'm touched. Because it's real, it really is real. And when you get that face, I know it's real, because that's that face. So if you caught the wow, it's just me getting a little mushy on the inside. You are a leader of your company. You've been with John for quite some time. Tell me what makes you an effective leader. And what do you do wrong sometimes? Because
a lot.
I guess, but looking from the
Our
outside.
team is here. They have long lists. Oh, God.
Don't tell her.
They're like,
Not
wow, what is wrong with her? I would say that what makes me effective is that I tend to think that anything's possible. And then if I decide we're going to do something, we're going to do it. I am very, very, very focused in a way that is probably maniacal for some people. It feels uncomfortable. But I get locked in on something and I say, this is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. And I can will things to happen.
I've seen it. I believe it.
I can will it. And then I would say the other thing that makes me very effective is I'm a very effective problem solver. I'm a fast thinker.
Right.
And so, I tell people sometimes they're trying to explain something to me and I was like, got it. Like that's my way of saying like, you don't have to keep going through, so much detail.
Some people say got it and they ain't got it.
I got it. That doesn't mean I'm a know-it-all because I ask a lot of questions. People know I can't stand acronyms. So when they start using acronyms, I'm like, what does that mean? And people always think they're shocked. If I don't know, I will ask you in any setting. So fast thinker, someone who solves problems. And then I think the other thing that makes me an effective leader is I care about the people I work with. I really do. And I always say, I'm going to be fine, but maybe they're not.
Right.
And so I always put them in front of me because I'm like, if things didn't work out for me, I mean this and I swear on my eyes. I could go and sell shoes at Neiman Marcus, and I promise in a year I'll be the #1 salesperson in the country. Because I will call all of you to buy shoes proudly. But I say that knowing like I know how to hustle and take care of myself. And so that because I feel so certain about my own abilities, I want to make sure that I give to others. So I always say it at Ariel, first I work for my team. I work for the people who work in Ariel first, then I work for our clients.
Right.
And I think that's very important because then we can deliver great results to them together if they feel that they are valued and they are very, very important. So I think that helps. What I do wrong, I tell this to people who interview with me, I'm really honest with them. My child has helped me here. Which is, I'm great if you have a problem. Like if you're in a pinch and you say, I have a crisis, I can help you solve it fast. But if you are chronically needy, I give up on you. My sister is in the audience. She knows I'm like weak vessel. I'm like, after like over and over and over again, if you're chronically needy, I have a very hard time. I really, and I have to like tell myself, don't roll your eyes. Don't, like I'm just not good at it.
I mean, it makes sense though. You need a break.
Yeah, I just,
You help so
just
many.
the chronic problem children I struggle with.
Got that, everybody?
But I'm honest with people about it. I say, if you need to be held, you shouldn't work with me. I do. People in Ariel who have interviewed with me, they know I have said that. Like, you shouldn't.
So make sure you keep somebody around to hold. I'm glad I never asked you to really hold me. I thought about it, and I was like, maybe she doesn't want me to. I'll ask George. He'll hold me.
But it's interesting. I say all that. I am warm, but sometimes I think people will think I'm a little cold because of that.
No, I find that you are one of the warmest people I know. You're there for everyone. So much so that I try not to ask you for a damn thing because I'm like, she needs a break. She needs a break.
I was terribly concerned about asking you to come.
I would do anything for you in a second, Mel. No questions asked. No questions asked. They can't even get Hobson out before I'm like, whatever she wants. Whatever she wants. It's literally like that. But I think it's reciprocal.
Yeah,
you show so much love. You assemble so many people who care. You know how to get a team together who cares. And that's really, that can be difficult to do in times when people are choosing to just be numb. But enough about me. You have many superstar friends, and what I would like to do is mention their names, and you tell me one thing that you've learned from each of these people.
Now, there are some non-superstar friends, too.
Yeah, but not tonight. You know what I mean? You see this stage? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm impressed. Like, this is amazing. Well, let's talk about your superstar friends. Let's start with, but I want to know what you've learned from them, because you are a superstar as well. So, Jamie Dimon.
Jamie said something to me on my first day as a board member, and he said, double down on mistakes, meaning you learn the most from things that don't go well. Don't spend your time lauding yourself of things that go well. And he gave me an example that I give to people that was so, they crystallized it for me. So I'm going on the board of JP Morgan, which is like Mecca in the financial services world. Largest bank in America, 8th largest bank in the world. I literally called George. I'm like, my first day at school. I talked to everyone in the lobby, you know, all sorts of things when I was going up to the board meeting. And so they said, Jamie wants to see you in his office before. So I sit with him and he tells me, you know, make sure you double down on mistakes. And I said, okay. And I said, oh, by the way, George is going to change banks. He's going to come to JP Morgan. And I said, he's never banked. I won't say where he banked, but I said, this is his first time. He's going to move banks. And he said, well, I want to know how that goes. And I was like, Jamie, like, right. Like, I'm calling you to tell you how George's bank transition went. And I was already a customer because John had been on the board of Bank One, and we all had to bank there, quite frankly. It was a rule. So anyway, I said to him, George is going to change banks, and he said, please be sure to let me know. I said, Jamie, I would never call and bother you. And he said, oh, no, you're going to let me know. And he said, you know why? If something goes wrong for George, it means it went wrong for 100,000 people. I want to know. And I believed him. And I was like, wow, that is fascinating. Like, he means it.
Right.
And that's why they're so excellent.
Lewis Hamilton.
Oh.
And thank you, Mel. Thank you.
She knows Lewis lives with us, too. Lewis is my little brother. I love Lewis.
Yeah, you do.
I love him so much. Lewis is my friend in my head when I'm struggling, because I know he never gives up.
Right.
Ever. And Lewis taught me something. He came to visit us once, and we were in the Caribbean, and he's like, I'm going to go jet ski. And I was like, no. He's like, come with me. I was like, no, I can't do that. Then he wanted to do something else. I said, no, I can't do that. And then one day he looked at me and he said, I've been here for 2 days and you've said can't 8 times. You choose not to. He said, change your language. I was like, I choose not to, but I will never do that. I will be more intentional. And he taught me, he said, I only speak positively to myself in my head. Lewis taught me that. He's like, don't entertain negative thoughts, Mellody. Speak positively to yourself in your head. And when I struggle, I think about Lewis. I'm like, Lewis would be speaking positively to himself in his head. Lewis never gives up, never. And that is what fuels me sometimes. I'll be on the treadmill, I want to get off, and I'm like, Lewis wouldn't get off. Lewis wouldn't get off.
Michelle Obama.
Michelle did something that I've never told this story in any way, but it is true. So during COVID, I was on the phone with Michelle, who I had not engaged with via the phone regularly. And we're talking on the phone, and just, you know, people during COVID were catching up. You know, it wasn't a Zoom, but it was a phone call. And she said, you never call me. But it was in a really interesting way, and I was like, I actually put you in a category of someone I never bother, ever, ever. And she's like, maybe I want to talk to you. And I was like, again, teaching me how to be a friend.
Right.
Right? I'm making all these assumptions about her. And she was like, maybe I want to talk to you. So it switched for me how to make sure you hold up a friendship
Right.
and not, sort of presume that a friendship is a bother.
Right. Wow. Mic drops.
They're all good, right?
They are so good. And the way you say never, never.
He never gives up. I can tell you.
I'm trying to speak with you,
He
but then
calls me sis, and I call him Sir Little Brother
Let's
because he's a
go.
Black Knight.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
That's
they call him the
amazing.
Dark Knight.
That's right. Howard Schultz.
Dream big. I have it on my desk. Howard always said, dream big, then dream bigger. And when you think about from one store to 38,500 stores in 82 markets around the world, when Folgers was good enough for everyone, that defines dream big and then dream bigger.
Wow.
So sometimes when I'm working on things at Ariel, I always say to myself, would Howard think this is big enough? Am I thinking too small?
It's a good thing you think fast, because you're thinking a lot.
Yeah, I am. But sometimes we are the product of our environment. And I've worked inside of this little company, et cetera, and then you have this person saying, dream bigger.
Right.
That was really helpful to me.
Well, I think you were already dreaming bigger when you were the greeter at that door.
I was, actually. I was.
And when you were the youngest.
I was
you were-
always dreaming bigger.
Yeah.
I was.
So it's all meant to be.
Yeah.
It's all meant to be, Mel. But this is a kind of interesting thing. You have a Warren, wait a minute. You have a credit card to honor Warren Buffett. Did you tell?
Yes. So I was on television for 2 decades talking about money, and one of the things that I was always shocked by was, first of all, the number of credit cards people had in their wallet. So I talked about that a lot. You only need one credit card. You only need one credit card. And I grew up in a situation where we just literally didn't have any money, or credit cards, sometimes we had a lot of bill collectors call and things like that. So I have some anxiety around this. So I've only ever used my Amex because you had to pay it off at the end of the month. That was always my theory from the very beginning of when I got out of college. And Warren Buffett said his card was green, that he never upgraded. And so I was like, I'm staying with green. It is the lowest amount that you pay in an annual fee. And I was like, if Warren Buffett can have a green card, I can have a green card. And the thing about, credit cards, there's like status to it. So people like whip out these amazing colors and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I got my lowly green Amex. And I tell people, it's never been denied.
Hey, let's go.
Now, I have to be honest. I married George and he had black. So the family card is black, but it's not mine.
Should I just leave that right there? Yes, the family card is black. Let's talk about your new book. I love this book. I hope everybody has this book, and if you have to get this, because it's very interesting. So, on the topic of credit cards, the Financial Times quoted you in a cover story about your new book, Priceless Facts About Money, saying most parents would rather talk about condoms than credit cards. Is that true? Did you say that?
Yeah, I did say that.
Why is that?
77% of adults have anxiety when it comes to thinking about, working with, talking about money, especially it relates to their kids. And so what we end up doing is we create a cycle, a vicious cycle, not a virtuous one, when it comes to the conversation about money. It is not defined by socioeconomic status. So what I mean by that is people with great wealth fear the conversation because they think their kids will be entitled. People with less means fear the conversation because they think their kids will have great anxiety over it. And as a result, both groups avoid the topic and everyone in the middle. And as a result of that, most kids don't grow up being socialized around this concept. So I talk about the scarcity we had in our family, and yet at the same time, my mother exposed me to everything related to money.
Right.
Probably in a way that people would scratch their head about, because I knew what our light bill was, I knew what our phone bill was, I knew what our rent was. I knew whenever we went to a restaurant, she would give me the money to pay. My sister knows this, every time. And then as I got older, count the change, calculate the tip, but I handled the money. She would give it to me, literally 5 years old, say, hand this to the waitress. I remember going to the bank with my mother once and she made a deposit. She stopped and she said, now, look at the number on the receipt and match it to your account number. Make sure it went into the right account. My mother would do those things. So as a result, she taught, I wrote checks when I was like 10 because she wouldn't come home from work and she was like, write a check and go get food. Now, the first check I ever really saw was, I mean, we bounced a lot of checks also. So, you know, there was this duality to her that was, it is 100% who I am. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm so grateful to her for it. And it grounded me in this idea that I wanted to teach kids about money. I wanted them to understand money because I was desperate to understand money as a child. And George always says to me, he's like, you know, the one thing about children, you have no advanced reasoning skills. You don't know when something will end. You have no control over any outcomes as a child, literally. He said, everyone has the life that they want except for a child. You know, whatever you choose an adult, you actively choose, even if you felt that it has been put upon you. There's a choice somewhere in there. But with children, you are really at the effect of the world. And so as a result of that, I said, what if I could arm children with knowledge that would start to teach them the language of money, just like you would want to teach a language to a child when they're very, very young. So I said, I want to start with really young children, and I have this secret mission of using the child as the gateway to the parent. Because I want to have them read this to them and ultimately realize they're learning too. And then we could have a society that is financially literate, and that literacy be economically stronger.
Well, let's talk. Yes, yes. Let's talk a little bit more about the stats. The U.S. ranks 14th in the world for financial literacy. Only 57% of adults in America are financially literate. What are some of the things you would do to change that?
Well, one of the things that I think is very important is we need to learn about money in school. I think it literally all the way at, from the Ivy Leagues to community college, this is essential, and it does not happen. Maybe you got a corporate finance class when you were in college, but that's probably as far as you went in terms of getting a real education in money. And so as a result, and it shouldn't wait until you're 21 years old. And so as a result of that, I think that we need to arm ourselves with this information much earlier, and it starts with reading. We have to read to learn, and we have to ask questions. And reading, it doesn't have to be, I'm not asking you to sit and read a textbook and, learn how to model, a company, but I am asking people to ask basic questions. What is my interest rate on my credit card? People know more about the more mundane, less important issues. The amount of time that someone will put into researching a vacation. You all know I'm right? Where am I going, the restaurants, all of that, versus some of the financial information around their lives that have tremendous implications for their future. I'm asking them to devote a little some brain cells to that. But I'm asking schools to adopt financial literacy. So 25 states in America have financial literacy curriculums or mandates. The problem is, I am not calling financial literacy home economics.
Right.
I don't think, reading a utility bill or writing a check is the same as understanding the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P, and understanding when I make a decision for my 401k plan, I'm making a decision for me, my child, who is maybe going to have to take care of me if I make a bad decision, and future generations who I may be able to pass on money to and create a stronger financial future for them if I make the right decision. These are profound issues in our society, and yet we have ignored them. It amazes me today, in high school in America today, you can take woodshop or auto in certain schools. And it always leads me to ask people, Who is cleaning their own carburetor? Who whittles? Nobody. And yet that financial class would have a profound implication. And the great thing about money, and you can see it gets me very riled up, it's like sports. When you introduce it to kids, they love the score and the nature of following it. And so you can create this interest at such an early age, especially if you will invest in things that they know and like and understand. And there's so much in the world around them that they could be a part of growing financially from their own dollars being spent. Think of how many Nikes your kids have had. Think of how much McDonald's they've eaten. Think of all the things that they've done and asking yourself, how many Disney movies have you bought? You know, all of these things, the Netflix streaming service that you pay for, your teen, your young child, etc. The last thing I would say, I spend a lot of time doing what my mother did to me when it comes to now making Everest much more aware financially of everything, which is just putting it in front of her.
Right.
So I have this great example. Everest loved this video game. It's not a game, it's a thing on her iPad. It's called Toka. So she's 5 years old. She knows she can never buy anything without parental permission. And she's a rules follower. I wonder where she gets that. Not from the father. So she says to me, she says, Mom, can I buy a place? That's what she would always say. And I'd always say, how much is it? She's 5 years old, 0.99. I'm like, I'm gonna have to think about it. So she would sit there. One, let's keep instant gratification under control. We don't have to say yes immediately. I said, let me think about it. I come back to her, yeah, you can get that. Next time she comes to me, Mom, can I buy a place? How much is it? $2.99. I'm gonna have to ask Baba. Go to Baba. She wants to buy a place, it's $2.99. He's like, yeah, I think we can do that. Go back to her, I said, Everest, we can do it. Okay. Third one, she comes in, she wants to watch a Disney movie, $15.99. She comes in, she says $15.99. She's like, that's ridiculous! So now I tell her, I'm like, movies feed us, right? So I'm like, so I gotta watch myself here. So I say to her, I said, well, it's like a toy. You're gonna see it multiple times probably. You're gonna get a lot of value out of it. But she had a sense now, 99 cents, $2.99, $15.99. I'm establishing.
Yes, you are.
When we go to Sephora, like all 11-year-olds, she loves Sephora. Hours watching her look at every single thing on the shelf that is skincare. She's 11. That has hydraulic acid. She'll tell me all sorts of things. But I said, what does it cost? And I was like, I need to know the price. So she's like, wow, that's $38, that's expensive. And then when we get to the counter, I said, guess how much is in the basket? I said, what do you think? And we spend time where she tries to figure out what she spent.
See, this is important. You're spending time with her. You're spending time to teach her.
We went through McDonald's and got fries. They said $5.49 with tax. She looked at me and she was like, what is tax? I said, I wish I had put that in the book.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, speaking of the book, I love this book. And I think it's great because I think you accomplished your goal of reaching the parents through the children's lens. I'm fascinated again. I just can't wait to go through all of these things with Rebel because it's also great illustrations.
Her child is named Rebel. She has the most beautiful child you have ever seen, ever.
No.
5 years old.
Thank you. She has the most beautiful child. We love our kids. But there's a beautiful part in your book. It's a little mystery about you keeping a piece of orange yarn in your wallet. Can I sort of reveal what that is? What that leads to?
Now, I have to be honest with you on this one. So A lot in the book. I had a briefcase when I was a kid. I asked for it for Christmas. It was Naugahyde, super cheap. It had a lock on it, you know, all of that. But I will tell you, the yarn is not a real story. But I was desperate.
Give us the truth about the yarn. Let the yarn be a yarn. It's a
The
great
yarn, I wanted to teach priceless. And I was trying to think of how to explain priceless to a child because the concept is very, very hard. Money as a concept for a child is very hard, especially today.
So what did you tell them what you did?
Yeah. I came up with this idea that I kept something in my wallet, and I'm trying to trade with John. John is my foil in the book, and we're little kids. My whole life is with John, okay? Just, Jamie calls him my work husband, and it's kind of true. And George says to me, the only person you hang up on me for is John. So, which is kind of true as well. So in the book, John and I are trading, I'm teaching barter to children. And he says, he asked me about my wallet. And he said, what is that? And I said, I won't tell you. And I do this throughout the whole book. We have the story going at the bottom of the page. And I won't tell him what it is. And at the end, he says, just tell me what is that piece of string in your wallet. And I explained to him that it was a sweater my grandmother had knitted me, and that it had grown, it'd gone away over time, and all I had left of this was this string, and it reminded me of my grandmother. The reason that I was trying to do that is to establish, when does something mean more to you than money? And we were just trying to grasp that concept of how do you teach a child that there are things that they have that mean more than money. Most people, when you ask them, if there was a fire in your house, what do you grab? It is not the most expensive thing in the house. It's something that is priceless to you.
Right.
So it's photos for people, now they back them up, but there are things like that it's something you cannot explain, except it means something to you. So we were trying to teach children how to value things that mean things to them.
So what's priceless to you?
True story. Okay, so we moved a lot.
I love that you have to clarify that.
This is a weird story. We moved a lot when I was a kid because we would get evicted, and it was not great sometimes. And the one thing I had was this doll. And my doll was named Tara. It said it on the label when my mom gave it to me when I was maybe 6 years old. And she was black and blonde. That was my mom, I'm telling you. It was like the weirdest thing. So Tara has been with me my whole life. And it's the one thing I never lost in all the moves and all the things that would happen to us. And my housekeeper to this day washes her dress and irons it and puts it on her starched. And she's a doll, she's only this big, and I've had her my whole life. So she's priceless to me. Because it reminds me of my mother, it reminds me of who gives a girl a black blonde doll, so that she was teaching me to be different and comfortable with it, and it reminded me that I valued it a lot.
I love that story. That's amazing. I love you. Let's get to John, though, since he's over there, and I've been feeling him. I feel him when you speak. It's in my peripheral. It's the John effect. You're co-CEOs, which is highly unusual in the business world. Some have tried it, some have failed. I understand it. Shakim and I have been co-CEOs. But you said co-partnerships are great because they allow people to focus on their strengths. I'm just curious, what happens when you two disagree?
The thing about the two of us, we have strong points of view. And John is very deceiving to people who don't really know him well. He comes across as this super nice guy, really easy to be with, kind of laid back with his French fries, at a party. And we work with a killer. Total killer. The people at Ariel know this. And so there are moments where we do disagree. We find a way to tolerate each other in those moments. But he taught me something a few years ago. We were actually disagreeing about something pretty intensely. It was the first time it was there was real tension, which happens in marriages, right? There is no marriage counselor. And John looked over at me and he said, Mellody, here's what I know. You love Ariel and you want what's best for the company. And I love Ariel and I want what's best for the company. We just have two different ideas on this. But if we believe we both want the best for the company, we'll figure this out. And we must always hold that front and center. You're disagreeing with me, but I know you want the best. And that shaped my thinking when we disagree, because I'm like, I know he wants the best. So I have to figure out how to honor that. But also, if I have to fight for a point of view, I'll go to the mat. We both will. But there's so much goodwill. There's so many years, 33 years. There is genuine love and respect.
But you will
John
Lewis
knows
Hamilton.
I love him. Love. Capital L. So that gets us through those moments.
What I heard was love gets you through those moments. Love gets
But
you
he
through
is a
those
weirdo.
moments.
Wow, I have gotten, John broke me in for everyone else.
John, she's tearing up, just so you know.
But he's a weirdo. He's in a good way. He's so comfortable with being himself. That was a great gift that John gave me.
Right.
He is not about pleasing other people. He wants to win, but he is very comfortable with himself. There are not a lot of people who walk around like that.
I agree. I would agree that my partner, Shakim, is very
He is. I've talked to
comfortable.
him.
You see,
I
he's like,
totally agree with
I
that.
don't need to do that. My ego is in check,
Yeah.
and which makes it a lot easier.
And that's why I could be at Ariel. That's why he allowed me to be who I am.
Right.
He was so comfortable. He wasn't holding on to power or position. When you're really comfortable with yourself, you'll share.
Key. When you're really comfortable with yourself, you will share. Share this with us. You are one of the most senior Black women in finance. At a time when we are witnessing a bit of a mood shift in corporate America.
That's an interesting way of describing it.
It is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tell me what role boards play in empowering the underrepresented voices.
They're the boss, truly. And I think they have to understand that role is to lead. They cannot abdicate that role. And so whatever the values of the company are, they uphold. And if they relinquish that responsibility, the company will be lost.
You have your own venture fund inside of Ariel called Project Black. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Well, one of the
about
things
that?
we did during the pandemic, it's so funny. During the pandemic, we started Project Black, or Ariel Alternatives. I wrote the book. I became chair of Starbucks, and George was like, just don't leave the house. He's like, you should just stay inside. You seem to be very productive when you're home. Project Black was this idea of, I kept telling people at Ariel, I said, I want to slingshot out of the pandemic. I don't want to limp out. My colleagues will know I said that. I was like, just picture the rubber band and let's just go. So how can we do that? And I was like, we're pulling the rubber band back with all this work. What are we doing? And with a group of people, I sort of started to think about what would benefit us and society long term. What have we seen during this period? And it was obviously the George Floyd protests and just absolute sadness was going on that summer of 2020. And I thought to myself, all these companies are coming forward with these pronouncements about diversity, equity, inclusion. And then I realized they couldn't do more. And part of the reason they couldn't do it more is they were trying to both literally and figuratively diversify their supply chain, because remember all the supply chain choke? So they were looking for supply chain partners, et cetera. They couldn't diversify literally in terms of people of color, is because less than 5% of minority businesses in this country have only 5% of minority businesses in this country have over $5 million in revenue. 5%. So I said to myself, this is nuts. So if you're a big corporation, there aren't even companies of scale that you can do business with. There are only 5 Black businesses in America that have over $1 billion in revenue. 5. Think of the thousands of companies. And so as a result of that, I realized that big corporations, they don't want to write 100 separate $2 million purchase orders. A Fortune 500 company wants to write a $200 million purchase order, but we didn't have the businesses of scale to do that. So I said, with a group of people that we work together on this, my co-founder is Les Brunn, who's brilliant, and he started Hamilton Lane. We said, what if we went and bought businesses that aren't necessarily minority owned when we buy them? They're middle market, so they're large of size. We're not trying to buy these tiny business and spend the next 50 years trying to grow them to scale. Right. We buy the businesses that are of scale, right? $250, $300 million checks for them in equity checks. And we ultimately minoritize them, my word, through our ownership, through our leadership. At least one member of the C-suite is a person of color, majority minority board, share equity throughout the organization. All of these things we thought that we could do where we could ultimately narrow the wealth gap by creating businesses of scale run by people of color. We knew we had the network of the people who were excellent to run these businesses. And so we got really ambitious and did something that people thought I was nuts. I mean, they would say things like, Mellody. So I said, let's go raise a big fund. So we raised $1.45 billion, but we only took $100 million checks. So, I mean, I had someone say, I'll give you 50, and I was like,
can't do it.
I can only take 100. I felt like that line in Pretty Woman. She says, don't take less than 100. Call me when you're through. I was like, I can only take 100. So we said 100 because I said, I don't want this seen as charity. Mm-hmm. This is a commercial enterprise. And if they have to go to their board to get approval to invest with us, we are not 3 CFOs from now. Oh, we gave Ariel that $5 or $10 million to do that diversity thing, and it didn't work out. Well, $100 million is real money, mm-hmm. and everyone's watching. And I said, we are capitalists with a capital C. It is not a social impact fund, but in success, we will have tremendous impact.
Let's talk more about it. In addition to your role at Ariel, you've been on the boards of some of the largest companies in the world. Tell us what a world-class board looks like.
It's very collaborative. There is no one voice. When I'm chair, I have to work to do something very hard. John taught me this, 2 of these things. One, his father taught me. And I always say Judge Rogers really started Ariel because he gave John those stock when he was 12 years old, those gift of stock every birthday and every Christmas. So I really admired him. But one of the things that I learned is I have to hold back my voice to not dominate. And I think great boards allow all the voices to participate. You are equal. You are literally sitting with peers. No one is more important. The board is the boss collectively. And so when I've been chair, I always tell myself, speak last. Wait for everyone else to talk. You know, you're on a Zoom and you talk over each other and they say, no, Mellody, you go. And I'm like, no, you go. So I think that great chairs, I hope I have been one, but a good chair invites all of that dialogue, because the dialogue is how you, and diverse opinions and perspectives are how you come up with better solutions. Boards, for the most part, operate very effectively during good times, and you're all happy to be there, and you go home after you have your coffee and whatever it is. But they really matter when things are hard. Right. Really matter. And when things are hard, you want a great deal of collegiality around the table where everyone realizes they're on the same team. And the only way you can do that is make sure everyone's treated equally. I remember once being in a board situation where someone said to me, well, I'm gonna call these 2 people and tell them about this. And I was like, if you call those 2 people, you're calling the whole board. We don't call 2 people. We call the whole board or we call no one. But I'm happy to call the whole board, but we don't have boards within boards.
Right.
I think that's very, very important. Second thing that I learned from John Rogers' father, which was ask questions. Questions make people less defensive. Statements make them very defensive. So I spend my whole flight going to board meetings trying to come up with 2 original questions. That is my goal. Not rhetorical, not obvious. And I use the question is the foundation of something I'm trying to get across. And then I think through the secondary and tertiary questions that go with it. Because usually I'm trying to lead someone into a direction without telling them what to do. And so the questioning is the power in a boardroom. Really great board members ask great questions.
I think they heard that. Well, let me ask you this question. Let's stay on the economy for a minute. We can't avoid this topic in January. It's just around the corner. What do you say to people who may be concerned about the new economy that's coming into office? The mood shift economy.
It's an idea that we have at Ariel. You don't invest your politics. If you do, you make a mistake.
What do you
So
think
what I
about
mean by
tariffs?
that, Warren Buffett has a saying that markets are stronger than governments. And when you look, and I give this as a real life example, I don't know what anyone's politics are in the room, and it actually doesn't matter. But I do know when Barack Obama got elected, there was panic. And some people said the economy's not going to be good. We were coming out of the financial crisis. They pulled in their horns. It ended up being a great time to be an investor. Then Donald Trump comes into the market. Remember, the futures fell overnight, then they came back strong the next day. It was also a great time to be in the market. Then Joe Biden becomes president, post Donald Trump, again, a great time to be in the market. We've had 3 very different perspectives on the economy, different types of economy, different types of leaders, different views of government, the role of government, et cetera, but the market has been stronger than their politics. And that's what I ask people to keep in mind. Long-term, business trade on fundamentals. Their fundamentals, not rumor, not speculation, not what someone is going to do. And great businesses, you know, Warren Buffett has this saying, champions adapt. Champions adapt to their environment. And we've seen that time and time and time again. We see that obviously with people, we see that with businesses. Champions adapt. So I don't worry about a leader in our economy. I worry more about, right now, for example, 2 back-to-back years where the S&P is up 25%. That's concerning because it's never happened. You know, that's a lot of return in a couple of years, a lot. And I worry when people get used to that, when they don't see bear markets. We had that 08, 09, and I tell people it was a brutal time for Ariel, brutal, worst years in our firm's history. 09 was the best year in our firm's history in returns because we stuck with our knitting and what we know how to do. But it was harrowing. And one of the things about it is I learned during that period, it was like my version of being a depression baby. And I thought about the depression babies, and they were the best savers in American history because they were without. And that time for me became where I became imprinted about what a real bear market looks like. And as a result of that, I know what to expect. I also know that I can get through it. When COVID happened, we were very clear about what we needed to do. But what has happened in the last 20 years because of the leadership in the market, et cetera, it looks easy. You know, the DART is the S&P 500. It's been the best performing investment you could have. And so the fact that the monkey could throw the dart at the S&P 500, they used to have that with the Wall Street Journal, they used to have the dartboard contest, where you pick the stock versus just threw the dart at the S&P 500. The S&P 500, which is the mindless investment, has done the best. That starts to get us a little worried. And the fact that 7 stocks have dominated, 7 stocks represent 30% of it, that gets you even more worried. You're in nosebleed territory. And even if those companies are phenomenal, which they are, trees don't grow to the sky. Nothing goes up forever. Things happen. And as a result of that, we say to ourselves, you know, we've got some animal spirits here and maybe we need to just be a bit cautious. Now that said, there are the areas of the market that have been totally overlooked and they've been orphaned. So we're not talking our book, but small stocks, emerging markets, there have been parts of the world that have just, no one cares. And when you see those stocks thrown away in the way that they have been thrown away, we see tremendous value. So the market could go down and these stocks could still excel. And that gives us a lot of optimism, and that's where we see a lot of opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you for that. So you have witnessed many economic cycles through your career. Where are you now, and have your guiding principles changed?
No. It's so interesting because the fundamentals never change. You know, I believe in long-term investing. I believe in value. I believe in not trading. When things get really rough, even, you know, we have a personal portfolio that's very tied to some companies. I will tell myself, don't look. Just, it will end. Just if you believe in the business, even with Ariel, sometimes there have been difficult periods in our portfolio where I'm like, if you're gonna get emotional about this, don't look at it. And so my fundamental point of view about investing is rooted in time-tested principles that have been proven over the last 100 years. And they've been rooted in the returns of the greatest investors of all time, one of whom I believe is John.
I love this two-shot of you and John that I have right now. It's fantastic. Mellody, you're from Chicago. You married an amazing man who's known
Not
for
from
San Francisco.
Chicago.
Not from the Chi.
I could have had a museum here, and then we'd live here. It's so brutal. He'd have something to do in Chicago.
Finally, don't give up. Don't give
Oh
up.
yeah, that's
Never
over.
give up.
That train has left the station.
Evie will take care of it. She'll do it. But you love Chicago.
Yeah.
To the bone.
Yeah.
And you could be on the West Coast all the time with George, but you always come back to Chicago. Chicago has faced some very difficult times. It's going through some very difficult challenges right now. You have obviously some of the most accomplished and successful financial minds in this room and people who care from their souls. What would you tell them to try to help Chicago?
Well, I think we can't give up on our city. I think it's very important. I think we have to be patient. We have to understand the jobs of leadership of our city, they're enormous. One of the people that I befriended during the pandemic, who's here tonight, is Mayor Lightfoot. We became really good friends during the pandemic. We did. We would do these calls late at night, and we'd be commiserating, and the enormity of the job became extremely clear to me. And I think it's easy for us to all be Monday morning quarterbacks and talk about how we could do better. But when faced with the decision trees that exist when you are the person at the helm of cities like Chicago, it is an enormous, weighty task. I ended up having just way more respect, even though I had a tremendous amount of respect for Mayor Daley and Rahm. I mean that. I've been friends with all of them. But I do believe that we need leaders we need a citizenry that understands how hard the task is, and we need leaders who are up to it. So we need both of those things. And I think that we, as citizens, we have to not give up on our city, meaning continue to invest in it, continue to live in it, continue to advocate for it, continue to advocate for it being great. And that might mean making some noise sometimes. But I think it's if we want the best for our city in the context of John saying, I know you want the best for Ariel, then that noise might be to a good end. And so I don't think we should be quiet, but I also think we should be constructive.
There's a question I've always wanted to ask, and Economic Club, please bear with me. It involves fashion. What's with the elaborate collars?
So it's so funny. People ask me now, I wear collars all the time.
I wore this collar for you.
When I was a little kid, my sister's gonna laugh at this. My siblings are much older than me. And so I was like this little kid with these siblings that my niece is 2 years older than me, just to give you that example. I'm one of those families, modern families. So my mom used to go to the Goodwill and get us white shirts with Peter Pan collars that were like used Catholic school uniform shirts. And I wore them every day. I mean, really. And they were 25 cents. And my mom just thought they were the greatest thing ever. She did. So I wore those shirts with those collars, and for some reason, in hindsight, I really loved them. So it's like it became a signature thing for me. It's like it's a throwback to that time, and it's a memory.
I love your memories. I love your memories. And where is your sister?
My sister is right in the middle here.
Just wave to the crowd, because we need everybody to know you are here.
George calls her the good sister Pat.
The good sister Pat.
The good sister Pat.
We'll
Sounds
take
like
that.
she's a nun or something.
Talking about collars and yes, she does. Mel, you've described yourself actually as relentless, which I think we can get a little taste of just hearing you speak. What is next on your relentless journey?
Getting better. So I never have a goal of something it's not like a mountain to accomplish, but it is being excellent. And that's what I talk about at our firm. Whatever, my mom used to always say, be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. She was like, if you are a janitor, I want a floor you can eat off of. And she was like, take a toothbrush to it. And that was something that really stayed with me, of just excellence is its own reward. And so I don't think in terms of accomplishments of I've got to get this, or I need this title, or I need that. I have never done that. John will attest to it. I just wanted to be great at whatever I was doing. I would write our client letter, and I would literally stand by John saying, it's so great, read it right now, read it. And he would be like, I'll get to it. I was like, no, it's so good, I want you to see it. I wanted him to love it as much as I did. I wanted him to think, this is great. It never got old for me, and it still doesn't. And so the only thing I want to accomplish is finding new levels of excellence, understanding I'm going to fail miserably sometimes and have badly, epic. And then I have to help George open a museum in 2026.
Let's go. I'll be there for that, definitely.
Sad we have to go to LA for it. But it's going to be spectacular.
It's George's
a masterpiece.
museum.
It's a masterpiece.
Yes,
if I say so myself, but in my humble opinion, it's George's masterpiece.
Don't cry, Dana. Don't cry. We're all coming, right? We're all coming to the opening. Let's go. All right, let's end with some fun. Let's end with some lightning round questions. You ready?
Yeah.
Favorite spectator sport, F1 or football?
Ooh, that's so bad. Oh.
You're gonna make somebody mad. Either way.
I'm gonna have to be honest
Lightning.
with you.
Lightning. Not thunder.
It started with F1. It started with F1.
F1. That's what.
It started with F1.
That's so hard. It's so
Denver,
hard, I
don't be
know.
mad.
Denver's okay.
But I love football too. Now.
All right. All I Want for Christmas Is You or Wonderful Christmas Time?
Neither. I'm gonna go with my favorite Christmas song of all time is Oh Holy Night. Favorite of all time.
You want to sing it right now, don't you?
Yeah. Nat King Cole version.
This is a lightning round. Let's go. Starbucks to go, a drink, and pastry order.
I'm not a pastry eater at Starbucks. I like Pike Place, black like me. Or I'll have a cappuccino with oat milk and 2 Splenda. if I'm treating myself.
You know what to get. You got to try the banana bread. It's amazing. Movie you wish you could.
Okay, the pound cake is good. I eat the icing part, but I haven't had the pound cake in a long time.
See, if you
but
keep
it's good.
talking, you're going to give it all up.
And we have pound cake because of Magic Johnson.
Okay, let's hear that story,
That's
Paul.
true.
Commercial break in the lightning round.
He is the only person in the United States who ever had a franchise with Starbucks in South Central LA. And he called Howard Schultz one day and he was like, black people do not eat scones. He's like, we eat pound cake. So they made this pound cake recipe and it was so delicious, they rolled it out nationally. Magic Johnson.
Magic does not get enough credit. Thanks, Magic. Okay, name 3 things that are on your desk.
Pictures of George and Everest. On my desk. Oh, I have lots of little tchotchkes of turtles, lots and lots of turtles. And number 3, I would say, oh God, I'm thinking of 3 or 4 different desks. I would say things I really care
Lightning.
about.
Lightning. No thunder, not boom.
Flowers. I have fresh flowers on my desk wherever I am.
There we go. Best burger in Chicago?
Best what?
Burger in Chicago.
Okay, I'm not really a burger eater, so I'm not capable of answering that question. I'm not. I'm going to be really honest with you.
Anybody know the best burger
I think
in
they say
Chicago?
Au Cheval. I think that's what everyone says. Au Cheval.
Au Cheval.
But I've never had one, sorry. I'm not really a burger eater.
This is very controversial, and I love it. Let's go. Last question. What's the last TV show you loved other than The Equalizer?
Okay, other than The Equalizer, because I send her pictures of us on Sunday night with just our feet. Do I not?
Yes, you do.
So that she sees us in bed watching her on television.
Love it.
Fight the bad guys. I would say last television show I loved, we watched Young Sheldon with Everest. And we really got into it.
I love that, Mellody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mel, for having a conversation with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, friends.